Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to AJ's Daily Cricket, and we're going to get straight into the first story today because we've unfortunately got to start with some very sad news, and that is the news of the passing earlier this week of the West Indies legend Sir Everton Weekes. Sir Everton was 95. He had been ill for a little while, but he passed away at his home out in Barbados, surrounded by his family. Truly devastating day for the game of cricket. Sir Everton was widely regarded throughout the world for everything he did on and off the pitch, and so will be greatly missed. I mean, he truly was a phenomenal player as we look at his numbers there, averaging in first class and test cricket into the high 50s, great conversion rate from 50 to 100 as well. So truly a great player, and it really is a desperately sad day. As I say, we all know that he was such a good player, but he actually, in truth, had a pretty tricky start to his Test career. He got dropped in his first series against England, somehow made it back into the side, I think, for the last Test match. And believe it or not, there were supporters who booed him because they completely disagreed with his inclusion, which seems unbelievable really to think about now. But Sir Everton managed to score 100 in that game, get his maiden Test match 100, and from there he never really looked back. He followed up that performance against England by going out to India and performing in away conditions and scoring another 400s back to back. And that record of 5 consecutive Test hundreds still stands to this day. So just true evidence really of an absolute great of the game. There's been a lot of tributes flying in from around the world. Sir Viv Richards described Sir Everton as one of the truly the greatest and an absolute icon. Brian Lara also stating that he puts Sir Everton in the upper echelons of the very best who have ever played the game. So, and also was somebody that Brian Lara himself trusted and respected. So, I mean, really high praise from two guys who are icons in their own right. So I think it really shows what a great character Sir Everton was, what a well-respected gentleman of the game he was, and he's going to be truly missed. He once said, "Making runs is a habit, so why not enjoy that habit?" And I really think he did, and he certainly played with that mantra throughout his career. And I think a lot of players around the world could learn a lot from that. So, really sad way to start, but I hope we remember Sir Everton Weekes as a phenomenal player, as one of the three W's, that iconic trio of West Indian players, and we remember him for his performances on the pitch and for being a true gentleman of the game of cricket. So, Everton Weekes, R.I.P. Now, the second story I want to get into today is a story that's broken out of Sri Lanka, where it appears that Kumar Sangakarra has been interviewed by a police special investigation unit that are looking into alleged corruption really in the 2011 World Cup, and specifically the 2011 World Cup final. Now, this all goes back to comments that were made since then by the gentleman who was the Sri Lankan sports minister in 2011 whilst that World Cup final took place, Mr. Aluth Gamaji. I apologise if that's not the correct pronunciation, but he made some very controversial comments about that World Cup final, stating that, "I am telling you that we sold the 2011 World Cup. I said this when I was the sports minister. I'm telling you, responsibility, I felt the match was fixed. I can debate this. I know people were concerned about this." Now, I mean, these are really controversial comments, highly inflammatory, and a little bit bizarre really, because he said in other interviews that he doesn't think the players were involved, but that other entities were. So it just seems like a very confusing state of affairs that is coming out of Sri Lanka and coming out of this situation, all created by these somewhat ridiculous comments, I think, that the sports minister has made. I mean, in that final, Sri Lanka had posted a good total. Mahela Jayawardene, I believe, got 100, and they were on top and doing well at restricting India's chase. But then a certain MS Dhoni got involved, and the rest is history. He sort of smashed it around and smashed India to a World Cup win. So for me, having watched that game 100 times in replays that have been shown over the years, I don't really see much to complain about. I think it was just genius from MS Dhoni really, and some of the other Indian contributions that got him there. So I think it's ridiculous, and I think that's obviously echoed by a lot of people in the game. Sagakarra himself and Mahela Jayawardene have sent out tweets asking him to provide evidence. There doesn't seem to be any evidence that is in the public domain anyway at this stage. Mahela Jayawardene sort of making out in a tweet that it perhaps relates to, or the sports minister's comments perhaps relate to election activity, etc., that might be coming up in that part of the world. But I for one think it really is an unbelievable story when we've got to be so hot on match fixing, and we've got to take every credible threat extremely seriously. I think that when the threat of match fixing is used for political gain, it's extremely dangerous. And as I say, with no evidence available, I think it's ridiculous that the players and gentlemen of the stature of Kumar Sangakarra and Mahela Jayawardene, I think Aravinda De Silva, Upal Taranga, they've also been spoken to. It's sort of bringing them into or bringing their names into an arena where they don't want them and don't deserve them. So I hope for one this story goes away, because I'm looking forward to hearing and seeing everything that Kumar Sangakarra gets up to in terms of promoting the game, which is a great deal. So hopefully this story will go away, and if it doesn't, all the evidence will come up and the right result will be got to. I don't think there's anything to concern ourselves with, or the authorities to concern themselves with in this regard. But let's hope it all comes out, and if this sports minister wants to continue his accusations, then let's hope he presents some evidence. But we will keep you up to date with everything that develops with that story here on AJ's Daily Cricket. And the next story I want to look at focuses on Pakistan's limited overs captain Babar Azam. Babar's actually in England at the moment with the Pakistani squad getting prepared for cricket later this summer. But it was in an interview up in Worcester that he gave to the Pakistan's media, where he actually made some interesting comments about the comparisons that get made between himself and India's Virat Kohli. And in fact, Babar Azam was saying that he'd actually rather people in the media and fans, etc., he'd rather them not compare him with Virat Kohli, and he'd actually rather them compare him with some of Pakistan's own legends of the past, in terms of people like Yunus Khan, Javed Miandad, and Mohammad Yusuf, I think were the names he gave. So I just thought that was a really interesting comment and a really interesting insight into Babar's mindset. Firstly, I want to say I completely understand why people make the comparison between Babar Azam and Virat Kohli. I think on the pitch, their consistency of their performances, they're both dominating right-handers with shots 360 degrees around the pitch. So I can understand certainly from that perspective. And off the pitch as well, they're both very vocal about their training regimes and their diets, etc., and everything they do to get themselves ready to play at the elite level. So again, I think it's I can see the comparison there. And also going a step further off the field into the commercial arena, I think Virat Kohli obviously is one of the most marketable sporting commodities in the world, certainly in cricket. And I think Babar Azam's profile is going through the roof as well. So again, they're both very marketable commodities off the field for brands wanting to associate themselves with the really positive values of these two professional athletes. So again, I can understand why the comparison's there, but thinking about why Babar Azam might be trying to say he doesn't want that comparison, I think perhaps he's doing it for one of two reasons. I think first, he's looking to take a bit of pressure off his own shoulders, trying to remove the expectation that he's going to do exactly what Virat does every time out. Certainly trying to sort of feel a bit of weight lifted off his shoulder to let him go about his business. I certainly think that's a motivation. And also, I think perhaps he's actually trying to shine a light back on Pakistan cricket and the past legends there, trying to use the talent that have come out of Pakistan itself to sort of inspire the next generation of Pakistan's players. So I think that could be a part of it as well. But I just thought it was really, really interesting that he's trying to avoid that comparison. But one thing I would say to him is that if people are comparing you to Virat Kohli, then you know you're doing quite a few things right in your cricketing career. So I wouldn't deviate from my methods if I was him, and I for one can't wait to watch him go play later this summer. I think he's going to come up against a range of new conditions, new bowling attacks, etc. So really, really can't wait to see how he goes, because he's a phenomenal talent, no doubt about it. Probably slightly better numbers than Virat at similar stages of their career, which just goes to show what phenomenal talent he is, and and what a great future he's got. So really interesting story, but we'll keep you up to date with how he gets on later this summer. And the last bit of news I want to touch on today is some squad information ahead of the next live cricket we can hope to see, which is the England-West Indies Test Series starting next week. And for England, first bit of news is obviously Joe Root has handed the captaincy reins over to Ben Stokes. Joe Root's wife is expecting their second child any day now, so he's going to be with her for that period and handing over, as I say, to Ben Stokes. Really exciting, really, in a number of ways. We all know about Ben Stokes' sort of performance levels and his competitiveness on the pitch, but I think he's underrated in terms of his tactical understanding of the game. I think we've seen in run chases in the past he measures that really well, and I think it's that understanding and that tactical awareness that he'll bring to the captaincy, which should be interesting for England to make the most of it in the short period while he's in charge. They've got a lot of decisions to make, which Ben Stokes has already said he wants to be involved in, but certainly at the top of the order around team selection, Rory Burns now back after his ankle injury. There's also Keaton Jennings has been on the performance squad, sort of performing in the warm-up. Young lad Bracey from Gloucestershire, he's got runs as well. So there's a lot to be considered, given that Dom Sibley and Zach Crawley are the ones that played the last game and are seemingly in possession. Ben Stokes certainly being thrown in at the deep end in that respect. So it'll be interesting to see which individuals England go with at the top of the order, and also in the middle order, whether they look at Joe Denley staying in the side, Ollie Pope, or whether they look at changing a few things up from the batting lineup. On the bowling front from England, a slight worry given that Sam Curran currently undergoing a coronavirus test. He's had some sickness and diarrhea over the last 48 hours or so he's being tested, which again may disrupt their options, but England as always have got an abundance of seamers they can go with. I personally think they'll go Anderson, Broad, with Wokes and Archer, because I do think that's probably their best option. Sam Curran's going to be a miss, but his health obviously comes first, so he's going to have to get himself tested and fit. So interesting times on England's front. Also, Ben Foakes, is he going to come in as a keeper? I'm not sure he will, but it's interesting that he's in the squad. I'm a big fan of his, to be honest with you. On the West Indies side, they've been a lot more settled. Shannon Gabriel's recovered from an ankle injury, so he comes in. That's pretty exciting for them. They're going to have a really decent attack to exploit English conditions. The weather over here has been pretty variable, so there'll be plenty for them to work with. Looking forward to seeing how they go, because it's going to be a great series, make no mistake. Recent times have been very competitive between the two sides. Bit of transition from England and seemingly always trying to find a settled lineup, but yeah, just make sure you tune in, because I think it's going to be a really good one. And finally for today, our amateur moment, we're going to look at a young guy called Ryan O'Brien. I think he's from the north of England, but this footage is of him playing out in Australia, and as you can see, this guy likes to give it a bit of a smash. This is a pretty brutal innings that he played for St Brunswick Cricket Club, I think, in Victoria, down in Australia, and absolutely every shot in the book, causing absolute carnage. So just thought I'd bring this to you. If you want to check out more of his cricket, it's at Ryan_OB1 on Instagram, so go and check him out. But that will wrap up the video today, guys. Hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure you like and subscribe, leave us a comment, let me know all your thoughts on some of the news stories we looked at today. It'd be really interesting to get a conversation going around some of those stories, so leave a comment, leave us a like, and until next time, take care and go well.